The works of Philo. The works of Philo, complete and unabridged. On the creation. But Moses, who had early reached the very summits of philosophy, Philo saw everything through the lenses of Greek philosophy. It is on this account that Moses says, at the creation of man alone, that God said, "Let us make man," which expression shows an assumption of other beings to himself as assistants. Philo was quoting from Genesis 1:26. And he would not err who should raise a question why Moses attributed the creation of man alone not to one creator, as he did that of other animals, but to several. Here Philo is teaching that Genesis 1:26, God was speaking to two other creators. On the cherubim, I have also on one occasion heard more ingenious train of reasoning from my own soul, which was accustomed frequently to be seized with a certain divine inspiration, even concerning matters which it could not explain even to itself, from which, if I am able to remember it accurately, I will relate. It told me that in the one living and true God there were two supreme and primary powers, goodness and authority, and that by his goodness he had created everything, by his authority he governed all that he had created, and that the third thing which was between the two had the effect of bringing them together was reason. Who is the heir of divine things? And the 3 days which passed before the creation of the sun are equal in number to the 3 days of the first week which came after the creation of the sun. For thus God allotted 3 days to eternity before the appearance of the sun, and those which came after the sun he allotted to time, the sun being an imitation of eternity, and time and eternity being the two primary powers of the living God. The one his beneficent power, in accordance with which he made the world, and in respect of which he called God; the other his chastening power, according to which he rules and governs what he has created, in respect of which he further denominated Lord. And these two he here states to be divided in the middle by him standing above them both. For says he, "I will speak to you from above the mercy seat, in the midst between the two cherubims, that he might show the most ancient powers of the living God are equal." On Abraham. He speaks to them not as three persons, but as one, and says, "My Lord, if I have found favor with thee, do not thou pass by thy servant." And when those persons, having been entertained in his house, address their entertainer in an affectionate manner, it is again one of them who promises that he by himself will be present, will bestow on him the seed of a child of his own. Of the three beings who appeared to the wise Abraham in the guise of men, scriptures only represent two as having come to the country which was subsequently destroyed by the purpose of destroying its inhabitants, since the third did not think fit to come for that purpose, inasmuch as he, according to my conception, was a true and living God, who thought it fitting that he, being present, should bestow good gifts by his own power, but that he should affect the opposite objects by the agency and service of his subordinate powers, so that he might be looked upon. But since of the two powers of God, and it keeps explaining the two powers, but there is another esoteric explanation. Here he relates how he interprets the scriptures. on rewards and punishments. It is incredible to find that it was Philo who quoted these words, but these men have arrived at the real truth who formed their ideas of God from God and of light from light. This is found in the Nicene Creed, and one thinks that these were taken from the Bible, but they were taken from Greek philosophy. Providence. For it was impossible that anything mortal should be made in the likeness of the Most High God, the Father of the universe, but it could only be made in the likeness of the second God, who is the Word of the other. A treatise concerning the world. God, being one being, has two supreme powers of the greatest importance. By means of these powers, the incorporeal world, appreciable only by the intellect, was put together. The one in the middle is the Father of the universe, who in the sacred scriptures is called by his proper name, I am that I am, and the beings on each side are those most ancient powers which are always close to the living God, one of which is called his creative power, and the other his royal power. And the creative power is God, for it is by this that he made and arranged the universe, and the royal power is the Lord. Therefore the middle person of the three, being attended by each of his powers as by bodyguards, presents to the mind, which is endowed with the faculty of sight, a vision at one time of one being, and at another time of three.